your mic again. Keep your pen and notebook handy to write down some important points. Do not make use of your mobile while it's charging. Okay? And lastly, you have to write down your name. You have to update your Zoom profile, like write down your name, standard, division, and school name. Many of the students are following all these instructions. Very good students. I am very happy for that. Some of have updated their Zoom profile too. Well done. And others will do as early as possible. Okay. Now moving to our topic. Today we are continuing with the science and technology part 2. Let us talk about the topic. It is related to our day-to-day life. Okay, you all can see that we are surrounded with all the living things and non-living things. So let me tell you what are the non-living things. Non-living things, we all know that they can't move, they cannot breathe, they cannot have senses, and they have no life. They are non-living things. But when we are talking about the living things, they all can move, they can grow, they can breathe, they have a life. They all are living things. So we all are living things. Like examples of living things are plants, animals, microorganisms. These are the living things. In previous year, last year, you have studied about the classification of plants. In this year, we are going to learn about the classification of animals. So today's our topic is lesson number 6, animal classification. Okay, we are going to talk about how the animals are classified and what are the criteria used to classify them in detail. Okay, and animals, we all are surrounded by these plants and animals. Okay, now see this picture, you can see wide variety of animals and plants. In this picture you can see environment is made up of biotic and abiotic factors. There are wide variety, like from aquatic to the aerial. You can see the animals here. You can see the small, as well as there are some flowers, there are some beautiful butterflies, and our world is surrounded by some of the bacteria, some unicellular organisms. Okay, we all have studied this. Some are creepers, some swim, some flies, some have hairs, and some have scales. And there are some animals, they have a feeders. Okay, and some animals are very small, some animals are very huge. Okay, on this basis, we have studied in these all these things in our previous years. Okay, we have to complete this chart. We have to complete this chart with the help of that animals and their classification and their characteristics. Let us have some revision about this so that we can complete this chart very easily. So moving to the next is living organism, how they are classified. They are classified on the basis of cell, whether the cell is having nucleus or not. See here, the first here it is a bacteria which doesn't have a cell. And it doesn't have a nucleus. In the plant cell, you can see it is a true nucleus present here. There are other cell organelles present there, and they are bounded by one membrane. Here also you can see in animal cell, the true nucleus is there and other cell organelles are present, and they are bound by a nuclear membrane. So this is the criteria used for the classification of living organism. See, on the basis of this, organisms are classified into prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now, what are the prokaryotes? I told you that lack of distinct nucleus and other organelles due to the absence of internal membrane, they are prokaryotes. And what are the eukaryotes? They contain nucleus as well as other cell organelles. They are enclosed by plasma membrane. So those cells having true nucleus and other cell organelles and plasma membrane, they are considered as the eukaryotes. Okay, so this is the first criteria. Then prokaryotes, all the prokaryotes, those doesn't have a true nucleus and other cell organelles are considered as the classified in the kingdom Monera. Then on the basis of cell, how many cells are present, eukaryotes are divided into unicellular as well as multicellular. Unicellular means what? They have a single cell. Only their body is made up of only single cell. And what about the multicellular? When we are talking about multicellular, their body is made up of multi cells, like from insects, so human being, plant body, they all are multicellular. Okay. Now, this is also one criteria on the basis of cell organelles and cells present. Then we'll go for the eukaryotes, which are unicellular. I just told you that unicellular. These are the animals who are only one-celled animals, and they are classified in the kingdom Protista. Then eukaryotes with cell wall. The eukaryotes having a cell wall means plant cell. They have a cell wall, and they are considered they are classified under the kingdom Plantae. When there is a no cell wall, so that cell is an animal cell, and they are classified under the kingdom Animalia. Okay, just keep in mind we have to complete the chart. Eukaryotics, autotrophs. Autotrophs means what? They can produce their own food with the help of chlorophyll. So all the plants, they produce their own food. They are considered under the autotrophs. They are eukaryotes because they have a cell, true nucleus, cell organelles, and cell membrane. For that, they are considered under the eukaryotes. And they are autotrophs. Autotrophs means they can produce their own food. That is why plants are considered under the autotrophs, and they are classified under the kingdom Plantae. Okay. Then kingdom fungi. Fungi means what? These are heterotrophs. They are eukaryotes, multicellular, and they are heterotrophs. They cannot produce their own food. So these are the 5 kingdoms. On this basis, see here the flow chart showing living organism structure of the cell. They are divided into they are classified into prokaryotics and eukaryotics. Then prokaryotics are classified in the kingdom Monera. On the structure of organism, they are classified in the unicellular, single cell, and multicellular, many cell kingdom Protista. All the eukaryotic unicellular organisms are considered and classified under the kingdom Protista. Presence or absence of the cell wall. When there is a cell wall, they are again classified into heterotrophs and autotrophs like plants and fungi. And when there is a no cell wall, like human beings, the cell wall is not present, so they are considered under the kingdom Animalia. So moving to this chart, we will just fill up this chart by living organism are considered under the prokaryote and eukaryote. Then again here, multicellular organism, unicellular organism, the kingdom is Protista. Then multicellular organism with cell wall, without cell wall, and they are under the without cell wall autotrophs, heterotrophs. In this way, we have completed this chart. So we have completed this chart. It was a revision. Moving to the next is how the plants are classified. This topic we have completed in standard 9. Let's have a look of this slide. The kingdom Plantae is subdivided into cryptogamy and phanerogamy on the basis of whether they are flowering plants or non-flowering plants. When they are non-flowering, they are considered under the cryptogamy, and when they are flowering, they are considered under the phanerogamy. And these cryptogamy are again further divided into divisions: Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta. And pheronograms are divided into gymnosperms and angiosperms. Whether the seeds bearing are naked, we can see the seeds of that plants, and whether the seeds are enclosed. On this basis, they are classified in the gymnosperms and angiosperms. Angiosperms are again divided into two, classified into two, that monocots and dicots, based on the seeds, whether they are having how many cotyledons. When there is only one cotyledon, they are considered under the monocots, and when there are two cotyledons, they are considered under the dicots. Okay, so this much is clear to you. Then see, I told you that variety of animals present around the world. There are very small animals, again the huge animals also are present there. There are some of terrestrial, means living on the land. Some are aquatic, living in the water like marine water or fresh water. Some are amphibians, means live on the land as well as in water. Some have feathers, they can fly. Some are creepers and they can creep on the land. These are the variety of animals there are. If you study, if you have there is a huge diversity among the animals, and according to the recent studies, estimated number of animal species on the earth is approximately 7 millions. So 7 millions, how can we study the 7 millions of species? It is impossible to study each and every species, right? So what we did, what they have did, they have divided these animals into groups and subgroups. Like if you want to classify, we are classifying the girls and girls and boys. Like we are saying, this is a group of girls and this is a group of boys, so that we can differentiate between two groups, girls and boys, on the basis of similarities and differences we are classifying. In this way, there are many criteria, many they are using the criteria to separate these animals into groups and subgroups. So differentiation of animals into groups and subgroups is nothing but the animal classification. See, formation of groups and subgroups of animals depending upon the similarities and differences among animal is called as animal classification. Okay. So this is the animal classification, formation of groups and subgroups. Now see, what are the benefits of animal classification? Why we are classifying the animals? When there are 7 millions of animals, it is very difficult to study each and every one. If suppose, if I want to, for example, if I want to find out the name Kiran, so whether it is a boy or whether it is a girl, it is a big question in front of us. If we go for the criteria, it is a girl, so it is very difficult. So boys part is left out. We will search in the group of girls. So again, we will take which Kiran, what is her, what is she doing, where she is living, what are her, which are her friends. According to those, we can come to the exact Kiran, who is exact Kiran present in that particular group. So we can have this kind of a benefits, like from a huge variety we can correct accurately find out the particular species. We can have their habitat. Okay, so let's see the one by one. The first one is convenient. Convenient, it is if we are classifying the animals, it becomes very easy to understand, and it becomes convenient for us. Okay, understanding about entire animal group. When we are studying about the animal, we are classifying them, so we can come to the we can understand entire animal group, whatever the group they are having, they are classified. We can come to the characteristics of entire animal group. Then we will get the idea about the animal evolution. What is their evolution, how they have developed themselves, what is their morphology, anatomy, etc. We can be, it can be easily identify, or it can give a good idea about the evolution. Then here it is accuracy. I told you accuracy. Exact, whatever is the animal can be easily identified with the great accuracy. We can have a correct name or that correct particular animal in front of us. If suppose I'm talking about the dogs, and I said you I said bulldog. So bulldog is coming in front of your mind. The picture of that bulldog is coming in front of your mind. So this is a classification by which we can get the accurate name or accurate species of that particular animal. Understanding the relationship of animals with their other animals, how these animals are interacting, how their relationship with the other animals, whether they are prey, whether they are predator, what is their relationship with the others, that can be understand easily with the, these are the benefits of classification of animals. Understanding the habitat of each animal. When the habitat means what, whether the animal is living where, whether it is living in land, it is aquatic, it is terrestrial, whether it is polar region, whatever is the habitat of that particular animal can be understand easily. Okay, and we can see their various adaptation, how they are adjusting with the environment. We can understand how they are adjusting with the environment, how they are adapting to the environment. We can come to know about their studies. So these are the benefits of the animal classification. Okay, now I would like to show you one video that whatever topic we have completed till time, I just want to show you one video about this. So wait a minute. Okay, just have a look of this. Whatever we have talked up, man. Uh, Charushala ma'am. Hello. हॅलो आवाज येतोय व्हिडिओचा ओके 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 this was all about the how the plants are classified, how the plants are classified in last previous years. In this year we are going to study with the classification of animals, because there is a huge diversity, among the animals. So here see the conventional system of animal classification, where kingdom Animalia is divided into two subgroups, is subkingdom non-chordates and subkingdom chordates. Subkingdom is further divided into 10 phylums like Protozoa, Porifera, uh, uh, Nidaria, Platyhelminthes, Eschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Hemichordata. And subkingdom chordates are again divided. They are having the same name. Phylum name is Chordata, and that Chordata is further divided into three. That is Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. And these vertebrata is again divided into 6 classes like cyclostomata, species, amphibia, reptilia, aves, and mammalia. We are going to study all these animals and their characteristics in our lecture in detail. Okay, let us go for the non-chordates, how the non-chordates are divided. I told you non-chordates here in kingdom Animalia is divided into non-chordates and chordates. Here you can see the 10 phylums on non-chordates, and chordates they have a one phylum that is the same name to the kingdom subkingdom Chordata. They are having a phylum named Chordata. Okay. Let us, before going for the characteristics of chordates, we will just see the anatomical positions, where what is the dorsal side, what is ventral side, what is anterior side, what is posterior side. Okay. Here we can see that anterior means what? Near the front. You can see here in the fish, here anterior side, it is near the front. It is known as anterior side. Here again you can see the anterior side near the head or near the front side. And it is a posterior means the hind side. Dorsal side, you can say a back side, or ventral side, it is a belly side or abdominal side. Okay, so this is dorsal, ventral, anterior, and posterior. Okay, let us to go for the characteristics of chordates. Chordates body is supported by the notochord. Notochord is what we will see in the next slide. Pharyngeal gill slits or lungs are present for respiration. Like in fishes, they are having a gill and we are having a lung for the respiration. Nerve cord is present on dorsal side of the body. It is hollow. I told you dorsal side means the back of the side. We are having a nerve cord. It is hollow. And heart is present at the ventral side of the body. We can see in the ventral side, abdominal side, or front side, we are having a heart present. Now, see the notochord. What is the notochord? Notochord is a long rod-like supporting structure present on dorsal side of animal body. It keeps the nerve tissue isolated from remaining body. it is a rod like structure. Here you can see in a blue, here you can see in a blue line, it is a notochord present, and it is attached to the nerve cord. Supporting structure present on the dorsal side. Here you can see in this picture, notochord is on the dorsal side, and it is separating, it keeps the nerve tissue isolated from remaining body part, because nerve is it is related to senses, and it is very important part of the body. See, again you can see this picture. Here you can see yellow color notochord, dorsal hollow nerve cord in yellow color. Okay. Nerve cord, again see the nerve cord. What is the nerve cord? A single hollow tract of nervous tissue that constitute the central nervous system of chordates and develop into the spinal cord and brain in vertebrates. I told you nerve cord is very important part of the body, and it is consisting nervous system of chordates develops the spinal cord and brain in vertebrates. Okay. Here again, I would like to give you that subkingdom, how the chordates are divided into subkingdoms. All chordates animals are grouped together in a single phylum, and the name of phylum is phylum Chordata. This phylum has been divided into three subphyla as Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. And that subphylum Vertebrata has been further divided into 6 classes as Cyclostomata, Species, Amphibia, Reptilia, class Aves, and class Mammalia. Again, I would like to give you I would like to show you one video about the characteristics of chordates. Okay, just have a look of the characteristics of chordate. Just we have completed that. Okay, so we will go for our slide. This is all about the chordates, their characteristics of chordates we have learned. I showed you the video of that. And let's go for the next is here it is a flow chart. You can see the how subkingdom chordates are classified. The kingdom class Animalia is divided classified into subkingdom chordates. Chordate then is classified as a phylum Chordata. Chordata is again divided into three: Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. And Vertebrata has again 6 classes like Cyclostomata, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia. So this is a flow chart showing how the subkingdom chordates are further divided in classes, phylum, subphylums, and classes. Okay. So you can see the full screen here now. We will talk about the non-chordates. I told you that subkingdom, kingdom Animalia is divided into subkingdom non-chordates. Non-chordates are again divided into 10 phylums. So I'll just read out that 10 phylums. First is Protozoa, then second is Porifera, then Nidaria, Platyhelminthes, Astyhelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Hemichordata. So these are the 10 phylums of subkingdom non-chordates. Okay, in that we will go for the first phylum Porifera. What is Porifera? See, here you can see the picture. This is a phylum Porifera of subkingdom what? It is a subkingdom of non-chordates. Okay, simplest body plan as called as a sponge. They are having a very simplest body plan. What is this body plan means? It is a structural and development characteristics that can be used to identify a group of animals. Simple here, their body structure is very simple, and their structural and development characteristics are used for identifying the particular animal. Yeah, this group of animals have similarities in development, like they are having a similarity in embryonic stage or adult stage, and they are also called as sponges. They are having a numerous pores on their body, means they are having a pores on their body, and that pores are called as ostia and oscula. Okay, here see, you can see all the pores which are here named as ostia, and here it is a one opening that is known as osculum. So these are numerous pores of the body which they are known as ostia. You can get a question like this: what is ostia or and oscula? So you can write down numerous pores on the body of sponges is known as ostia and oscula. They are mostly aquatic, means they are most of them are marine and few are freshwater dwellers, means they are living in the marine water, and some of they are living in the fresh water. Their body is asymmetrical body type. What is asymmetrical body type? Just have a look here. An imaginary sense, if body of an animal is cut through imaginary axis of body, it may or may not produce two equal halves. See here, you can see here the imaginary axis are given on the butterfly. If we are giving a axis on the butterfly, we will get the two definitely equal halves. So it is a symmetrical body structure. If you see here again, here the lungs, body parts of the human body, if you are giving this cut here imaginary axis, you will get the two equal halves. Body will cut into two equal halves. But if you talk about this sponge, if you cut in any way, it will not going to give us a two equal halves. So it is a asymmetrical body structure. Sponges have a asymmetrical body structure. See here, in case of such a body, there is no such imaginary axis of the body through which we can get two equal halves. If you try to cut this sponge in two equal halves by imaginary axis, you will not get the two equal halves of this animal. So they are considered as the asymmetrical body structure. Okay. Then they have a special types of cell. They are known as a collar cell. Here you can see these are the collar cells inside that sponge. These are the special types of collar cell present in the sponges. They are sedentary animals, means they are attached to substratum, and they do not do not show locomotions, means they cannot move. They are attached to a substratum or a particular material present in the water substratum. They are attached to the substratum and they do not move from one place to another. That is why they are known as sedentary animals. They are having a supported by spicula and spongin fibers. Okay, spicules are made up of calcium carbonate. You can see the spicules are made up of calcium carbonates or silica. Then they feed on the how they live. They feed on the small organism taken in their body along with the water. They are taking water from this ostia inside them, and as they take the water, the small particles, small animals come inside their body and they feed on them. Water is taken through the ostia and given out through the osculum. They are taking water inside from the ostia and they're giving out the water from osculum. Okay. Now see the reproduction, how they reproduce. Reproduction, they can reproduce, they can develop their own progeny, like by sexually or asexually they can produce. In both the way they can produce their young ones. Asexually, by budding process they are developing the young ones, and they are good in the regeneration also. By after means their body is getting cut into different parts, and that parts developed into full sponges. This is a regeneration. In this way, in all these way they are reproducing themselves. So here examples of cycon. You can see the example here, cycon sponge here. Again, I would like to show you one video about this phylum Porifera. Just have a look of this video. You will come to know all the characteristics of Porifera. Okay, so this is all about the Porifera, characteristics of Porifera. So I'll just want to conclude that I will just take to revision that what is we have completed our today's topic, phylum Porifera. In this chapter, we have studied what is animal classification, means dividing the animals or forming the groups and subgroups of the animals in depending upon the similarities and differences is known as animal classification. Then the animal classification, animal kingdom Animalia is divided into two sub kingdoms like non-chordata and chordata. We have completed the characteristics of chordata. In that, then we have come to the non-chordates. In that, we have completed the Porifera. And the example of Porifera is sponge. Sponges have a numerous spores all over their body. They are known as ostia and osculus. Example is sponge. Just we have had a video of that. We gone through the video, and I think everything is your doubts at all. Now it is a question answer round. You have to give the question. I'll give a questions to you. You have to answer that question. Okay. So first question is, what is animal classification? So here, raise your hand if you want to give an answer here. Raise your hand. What is animal classification? Hello, students. Yes, Khushbu here. I can see Khushbu. Unmute yourself and give your answer.
Yes, ma'am. Group
Yes.
and subgroups of animals depending upon similarities and difference among animals is called as animal classification.
Very good,
Very
Khushbu.
good.
Very good. Now mute your mic again. We'll go for the next. Next is what? Kingdom Animalia is divided into two subgroup sub-kingdom. Here, Rupesh Singh. I can see Rupesh Singh, Varshanagar, MPS. Unmute yourself and give your answer.
Chordates and non-chordates.
Very good, Rupesh. Very good. Excellent answer. Mute yourself. We'll go for the next is what is ostia and oscula? Here I can see Anjali Goshala. Yes. Can you give your answer?
Yes, miss. The spores on the body of sponges is called ostia.
Yes. Very good, Anjali. You have given a correct answer. Mute yourself. So, student, I think I have covered your chapter till porifera. We will continue with the next topic in next lecture. Till then, thank you. Thank you for watching. And
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pushpa ma'am.
uh, yeah, science is a very good subject. You have to make a friendship with that science. Enough. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Bye
Yeah.
bye.